This week we got some LCS action, and specifically we'll start off with Academy. Teams were playing for LCS Academy League points to improve their seeding for this year's major tournament, Proving Grounds, at the end of the spring split. At the end of week 5, we got some changes, only a little bit, not a ton, but we'll start off with Thursday the 17th with 100T Academy and TSM Academy facing off in a 2-game match. It was big for TSM to split this match or this series with 100T, considering TSM has been struggling this year. So glad to see them pick up at least something so that they could look at least a little bit better. The next game we saw was Golden Guardians facing off against Team Liquid Academy, where we saw GG take both games off of Team Liquid. Both were relatively quick maps, both finishing in under 27 minutes. It was a comfortable series for GG, with them outslaying Team Liquid 37-13 in kills.
Wow, that's a 24 kill lead.
All right. In the third match, we saw Evil Geniuses Academy play FlyQuest Academy, where those 2 games were split with each team taking one. Slaying and creep score were pretty even between both teams, with lobby leading kills only doing so by 1 total kill.
Very evenly matched.
Oh yeah, most definitely. In the fourth match, we saw C9 Academy take on Dignitas Academy, where C9 were able to take both games off of Dignitas. C9 heavily outslayed Dignitas 42-20 and taking 3 times as many towers. It was a dominant performance from C9. And then the final match of the day, we saw Counter Logic Gaming Academy, that's a mouthful, squaring off against Immortals Academy.
So am I.
The games ended up going 1-1, with each team taking 1 map. Kills were close, with CLG Academy only outslaying Immortals by 3 kills.
And if it was a difficult day for some teams, they got a chance at more games on the next day, Friday the 18th.
Yeah, they did, and it brought 5 more matches. It was a strange coincidence on Friday, considering every single game, each team picked up a map. So with everyone winning 1, it didn't really affect the overall standings in either a positive or a negative way. Just kind of wiped the board and made everybody stay where they were. Each series was close to even in most categories, with not really many standout statistics to speak of. At the end of it all, though, it left us with the following league standings. In first, we had Counter Logic Gaming Academy with 16 wins, 6 losses. 2, Golden Guardians Academy, 15-7. 3, Cloud9 Academy, 13-9. 4th, 100 Thieves Academy, 12-10. And we have a 4-way tie for 5th between Dignitas, Team Liquid, Evil Geniuses, and Immortals, all with 10 wins, 12 losses. And then in 9th, FlyQuest, 8-14. And then trailing up the pack was TSM at 6-16. Ouch.
For the individual Academy League leaders, we have coming in at number 1, Triple from CLG Academy, being number 1 KDA, coming in at a whopping 7.0 with 43 kills, 16 deaths, and 69 giggity assists. Number 2 for KDA, we have Stixie of Immortals Academy, coming in at a close KDA of 6.5 with 135 kills, 37 deaths, and 105 assists, giving him 277 engagements, 149 more than total than Triple in first place. Number 3 for KDA goes to Chime of Golden Guardians Academy with a 5.8. 19 kills, 42 deaths, and a crazy 226 assists. Number 4 and 5, we have our top 2 farmers with Kaori of Evil Geniuses Academy with a 9.8 CS per minute. And number 2 farmer goes to King of C9 Academy with a close 9.7 CS per minute.
So one statistic you just said before we move on is the crazy amount of engagements from Stixie. Stixie. I I'm
Specs
struggling with some
high,
of the
Gen
gamer
A.
tab,
Uh-huh.
but uh, anyways, the fact that they have played 22 games, this man has 277 engagements.
Yeah.
That's just a lot of being all over the map. So
Mm-hmm.
that's absolutely insane. But for me personally, I'm expecting this sort of stuff to change. Obviously, the league is super competitive this year. So next week, I'm looking for Pretty of the Immortals Academy to step it up in slaying, as he's currently 4th in the league with 91 kills and 131 assists. And then he's averaging a 5.4 KDA, but he is 2nd in total kills. So that's pretty doable for him. And then also, I expect to see DeMonte of CLG Academy step it up in farming, as he is currently sitting at a 9.5 creep score per minute after just 4 games in the academy this season. So I'm looking for it to change.
Absolutely.
And then moving on from academy into regular LCS games, we
Big
saw
boys.
LCS, the big boys. Big boy.
Big
We
boy.
also saw LCS action happening this week, with current teams playing regular spring split matches organized into an 8-week, that's right, eight, count them all up, double round robin format that will be capped off with spring playoffs that begin on April 2nd. The importance of these matches cannot be understated, as they are what make up the seeding for the spring split tournament. So, seeding is everything, as we know in these tournaments. So, to start off on the 19th, we saw the return of 5 more matches on that day. GG started, or Golden Guardians started it out versus 100 Thieves. However, GG were not really able to contest in the match, where 100 Thieves were just able to completely outslay them 17-3 in kills in a very quick 27-minute match. Thieves controlled the match, taking all the dragons with 4 and the only Baron that happened to be taken down that game.
Someday an FBI of 100 Thieves coming in with the top kills, both having 4 kills, 0 deaths, and 7 assists. Same exact score. Neat.
It is very neat and tidy. Put a nice little bow on it. Next match, we saw TSM taking on Immortals. It was a battle of a couple of the last place teams, with TSM trying to take their first match win. Despite being out jungled and taking less towers, TSM was somehow able to take it with 11 kills to Immortals 8. The last Baron was taken by TSM that was able to propel them to victory.
Yeah, the majority of the 11 kills from TSM seem to come from the Beast Tactical with a KDA of 9, 1, and 2.
And then following that performance with some interesting slaying going on, we saw Team Liquid take on Evil Geniuses. Team Liquid continued their dominance with their performance so far this year without dropping a tower to EG in this match. Bjergsen in the mid lane controlled the slaying without dying a singular time and getting 8 kills and 2 assists, which were more than Evil Genius's entire squad. It was a comfortable showing from TL, and they further propelled themselves from the mid pack, being in a 3-way tie for that first place spot in the league.
The highest KDA for EG was only 2 kills, 2 deaths, and 3 assists from Danny. Not taking out a single tower. That is a pretty one-sided match.
Very much so. And then in the 4th match of the day, we saw FlyQuest take on Dignitas. Dignitas were trying to hang in this match with taking just 3 towers less than FlyQuest. However, FlyQuest's slaying was able to level them up pretty quickly, leading to taking more towers, dragons, and barons, somehow taking both barons. Now, I'm going to mess up this guy's name. Josie Diodo, I believe is how you say it, was able to lead for FlyQuest with 7 kills, leading the lobby and helping to propel them to victory. Around the 28-minute mark, though, the game fully tilted into FlyQuest's favor, taking the last two dragons and where they destroyed the last two barons, giving them the match.
Yeah, and almost with a 10,000 gold advantage in the end. That's no joke.
Oh yeah, Noble Esports could use some of that gold. And then in the final match of the day, we saw CounterLogic Gaming take on Cloud9. Up to this point, CLG had not taken a game so far this year in LCS. Despite this record, though, CLG were able to take it after the 38-minute mark, where they were able to take the mid lane and completely control it. Palafox for CLG controlled most of the slaying, though, with 8 kills, 1 death, 5 assists. No one on Cloud9 was able to have anywhere close to similar numbers, with their highest slayer being Fudge with only 2 kills and 2 assists. With that win, though, it gave CLG some confidence, despite being at the bottom of the leaderboards, tied for 8th with TSM and Immortals. Despite the loss, though, Cloud9 are still near the top of the league, but it does bump them out of that tie race that's at the top of the league for leader this year.
What you got for Sunday?
On Sunday, we saw 5 additional matches to further the plot this season. Ooh. In the first match of the day, Immortals took on Evil Geniuses. It was kind of a seesaw match that saw heavy slaying and dragons being traded throughout. However, Power of Evil, love the name by the way, of the Immortals, was able to show up for the squad, leading the lobby in kills with 7 and then assisting for an additional 7. Danny of Evil Geniuses tried to keep up with 5 kills, but it just wasn't enough. Immortals ended up being able to take the match, giving them their second win of the year.
With the match ending 20 kills Immortals and 13 for EG, a 36-minute game and 10,000 gold advantage to Immortals seems like they just played a slow and steady wins the race game, gaining that lead.
Most definitely. In the next match, we saw FlyQuest take on 100 Thieves. This was a very even matchup between some of the best teams in the league so far this season. FlyQuest was able to take it after a 43-minute match, but it was only just narrowly by a small margin. FlyQuest was able to lead in kills behind Toksule, I think is how you say it, with 6, and Johnson with 5. 100 Thieves dominated in the 100 Thieves in the top lane, while FlyQuest were able to squeak it out through the mid, while 100 Thieves got out jungled. This win gave FlyQuest their 5th win of the season.
And this one was the longest game of the whole weekend, with it being such a close fight.
And then in the third match of the day, we saw Cloud9 take on TSM. This match was a strange one where we saw the victor get outslayed, take no dragons, and only take 1 more tower than their opponents. In this case, it was Cloud9 over TSM. Spisa of TSM was able to lead the lobby in slaying, taking a total of 7 kills, but was closely followed by Tactical of TSM and Summit of Cloud9, both with 6.
Such an interesting game. Cloud9 winning over TSM, even though they had the kill advantage to TSM, and that's pretty rare.
Oh yeah, it's rare that you get outslayed and still win. So, and then after that, we had another grueling match on the cards in match 4 with Golden Guardians taking on Dignitas. Golden Guardians seemed to take control of this match, taking the win after 41 minutes. GG took the slaying 12-4, the tower advantage 11-2, and dragons 4-2. Dignitas was able to control the mid lane, but not by enough that would give them the match. Golden Guardians were able to dominate through that top lane, though they were able to through where they were able to deal most of their damage. A Blazed Olive was able to lead the lobby in slaying with a total of 5 kills.
That name. If you look at the total kills of 12 to GG and 4 to Dignitas, with GG having almost a 10,000 gold advantage, you can tell Dignitas really kept giving it all they had letting this game go on for 41 minutes, even though the stats show it wasn't that close, but really hanging on for that long.
And the fact that there was only 16 kills in a 41-minute match, that's a lot of farming that was going
Gave
on.
it all they got.
Oh, yeah. And then the final match of the day saw Team Liquid take on Counterlogic Gaming. Team Liquid, being one of the best teams in the league so far this year, continued to put that on display, matched up against one of the weaker teams of the season in CLG. Liquid was able to outslay CLG, but only just taking it 15-10, with TL pretty even across the board in terms of slaying, with everyone on either 3 or 4, except for Bjergsen, who's kind of their star slayer, who was surprisingly only able to take 1 kill in the match. However, even though they were only slightly able to take it in the kills department, TL was able to control in towers, taking a 10-2 margin and not allowing CLG to take any of the dragons, with TL taking 4. After all was said and done, Team Liquid played a dominant match after just 29 minutes of play. And then after all was said and done, after the 20th was over, we saw league standings change up a bit, with pretty much 5 spots where teams were tied. So for first, we have Team Liquid and FlyQuest both tied with 5 wins, 1 loss. Tied for third, we have Cloud9 and 100 Thieves with 4 wins, 2 losses. In fifth, we have Dignitas and Golden Guardians, both 3 and 3. In seventh, we have Evil Geniuses and Immortals Progressive, both with 2 and 4. And then bringing up the pack, we have TSM and Counterlogic Gaming, both 1 and 5.
Big league leaders of this season thus far, top 3 in KDA. Coming in at number 1, we have Bjergsen of Team Liquid with an impressive 11.0 KDA, 18 kills, 5 deaths, and 37 assists. Number 2 for KDA, we have Tukule of FlyQuest with a 9.6 KDA, 29 kills, 7 deaths, and 38 assists. Lastly, in third for KDA, we have Someday of 100 Thieves with a close 9.3 with 21 kills, 6 deaths, and 35 assists. The 2 top farmers were Danny of Evil Geniuses with a 10.5 CSM, and number 2 goes to Bwipo of Team Liquid with a close 10.2 CSM. Closing out LCS, what about CDL? What's going on with CDL?
Those are some impressive numbers. And then we saw performers in CDL do similar things, although it's completely separate games. We saw some top performers in CDL with COD League games this week, which were the last games in order to get better seeding for the first major that's going to be the next weekend. For seeding, each team played 5 matches split between this week and the prior 2 weeks to determine their placement for Major 1, which will be the first major tournament of the Call of Duty season this year. Its importance can't be understated, though, with there only being 4 CDL majors this year. So each major's placement will be very important for each team, impacting their entire season and having huge implications. In the first match we saw on the 18th, we saw the LA Thieves versus the Paris Legion. Los Angeles Thieves won the series 3-1, with Paris seeming not in contention the entire game. Los Angeles averaged a team KD ratio of 1.06, outshowing Paris, who had a team average of 0.965. Paris was able to take 1 map off the Thieves in the search on Berlin. Otherwise, though, Los Angeles controlled the match, with Paris not able to control anything in any of the matches. Kenny of the LA Thieves was the standout performer in the lobby, going 90 and 65 for a total KD of 1.38. This loss, however, does take Paris down to an 0-4 record after placing them securely in losers bracket to the start of Major 1. And actually, my apologies, it's an 0-5 record, which is even worse.
I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt there. Kenny really carried in kills this match with his 1.38, whereas the other players' KDs on both teams together ranged from 0.73 to 1.07. So he really stood out from both sides.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. And then in the next match, you saw some additional standouts with the Atlanta FaZe taking on the Minnesota Rocker. This match had signs of being one of the best matchups of the weekend, but Atlanta FaZe came to play. FaZe ended up taking the match 3-0 in a very one-sided affair, taking their season to a perfect 4-0 record after this match. Minnesota was only able to keep up in the search and destroy, with that game going to a round 11, where it seemed Atlanta kept Rocker on the back foot, though, and it made it seem like a simple round. Other than that game type, though, Rocker just did not seem able to compete with the likes of FaZe. Cellium and Simp were the bright spots in the match, with Cell going 1.55 in KD and Simp going 1.32 for the entire series.
This looks more like the Atlanta FaZe we thought we'd see going into this season.
Most definitely. Simp finally has started to show up. And then we saw our next teams come up. That was Toronto Ultra versus Optic Texas. Toronto's another one of those high performers from last year. And when this match started out, it started out with some controversy, with Shotzi using a gentleman's agreement attachment on his MP40, the F8 stabilizer, in maps 1 and 2. Toronto ended up using it in match 3 because you never want to feel like you're at that disadvantage. But that was after Optic had already taken it off their loadouts. In the grand scheme of the match, it didn't end up mattering, as though it seemed Ultra was on the back foot the entire series. 3 players for Optic went positive in Dashi, Illy, and Shotzi, each going at least plus 10 or above. Shotzi led the lobby, though, with a 1.32 KD. This match was the deciding factor in the bigger picture of Major 1, as it brought Optic and Ultra to a level playing field, both being 2-2 on the season. We'd love to hear from everybody about your thoughts on the Shotzi situation. Did it impact the game, or was it a simple mistake that didn't end up changing the outcome? Ham, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, the F8 stabilizer gives you a faster TTK, which is interesting that Shotzi also had the highest KD of both teams, also an absolute animal, but at the same time, he also had that F8 stabilizer on there, so it looks bad. But that aside, I am so glad to see Optic finally showing up the way that all of the fans knew that they would.
Toronto just
They
didn't
weren't
seem
it.
to be themselves.
Right.
It was strange. With that being the last match of the day, it just kind of stewed in everybody's minds and just became the focal point of that day. And then on Saturday, we saw more matches come up, with Florida Mutineers taking on Seattle Surge. The Surge have been dominant up to this point in the season, just seeming a step ahead. And from what we've seen from the Mutineers, many considered that the Surge were just going to walk away with this one with an easy 3-0. However, the Mutineers had a different idea in mind, where they flipped the script and took the series, flipped the script, taking the series 3-0. There were not many bright spots for Seattle, with only Mac being the only one to go positive with a 1.18. However, the Mutineers can hold their heads high with a very important win over a solid squad, and being led by Awakening, Big Wake, who carried the lobby with a 1.35 KD across the series.
Yeah, this is the Florida Mutineers that showed up during the preseason tournament style weekend. Florida was really dominating during that, then seemed to fall off a bit as soon as the majors started. So I'm glad to see them showing their skill this match that they showed in the beginning preseason.
Most definitely, making the league more competitive. And then in the next match of the day, we saw the craziness continue, with the New York Subliners taking on the Boston Breach. New York were able to pick up their first match of the year, which is shocking to me that they hadn't won one yet after losing 3 straight with a 3-2 win over Boston. Boston was even statistically across the board, with all but one player on their team going positive. However, with 3 positive players in Capsule, TJ Halley, and Methods going plus 20 for Boston, it still wasn't enough to match New York's Hydra, who did the same all by himself. He led New York in the kills column, and it helped them secure their first victory of the year. New York, however, is still struggling in that hard point game mode, so they're going to need to pick it up if they don't want to continue to struggle.
Yeah, and same thing like I said last match. New York subliners were absolutely dominating in the preseason as well. I believe they actually beat Boston, if I remember properly. I believe they beat Boston pretty hard too. So it's just they're really falling off. And Hydra was so impressive this one with a KDA of 1.21. He is the highest KD of both teams this match, being the only one going positive on his team.
Oh, yeah, he definitely carried. Sort of like in match 3, where we saw another great matchup between the Rocker and the Los Angeles Guerrillas. Los Angeles seemed to be ahead in the series, quickly going up 2-1 with only dropping the Search and Destroy. They seemed to be poised to take it via the respawn game modes. However, the Rocker had different plans in mind, with winning 6 straight rotations in the 4th game and taking the series to a tie 2-2. However, coming into the Search, Los Angeles just seemed to have lost their steam and dropped it in 6-2 in the round count, which left Minnesota Rocker with the win. It was a very impressive series, even though it was strictly even across the board, with the highest KD in the lobby being Attach, who went a total of 1.09 KD.
Yeah, none of the KDs really stood out, seeming to be a pretty evenly played match.
Most definitely. And we would have hoped the next one, which was the final match of the day, would have been a little more even. But it turned out Los Angeles Thieves were able to take the win over the Toronto Ultra in 3-1 fashion. Ultra started off the year hot, winning the Kickoff Classic, but since have seemed to start struggling in the beginning of the year matches, only able to take 2 wins out of their last 5 matches. Bance did play well for the Ultra, going 1.11 in the overall series, but Cammy didn't seem to be in his same dominant form from last season. With a very small sample size from this season, and especially in this match, where he was only able to go 1.0. So he was even across the board. On the other hand, the Thieves played well in slaying, close to even across the series for all players, except for Envoy, who went only 0.89 in the match. Despite this, though, the Thieves were able to work together to get their trades and secure that victory.
Yeah, with Toronto taking the first map on hardpoint with a 141 point lead, I really thought they were going to slay, but Thieves said nope and took everything else. Om nom nom. What about those Sunday games?
We had great games on Sunday as well, with the first one of the day being the London Royal Ravens versus the Seattle Surge. This one, I was kind of hoping to see Seattle step it up, but after that loss the day before, it just didn't seem to be in the cards. And in this match, London Royal Ravens were just too strong. London ended up taking the series 3-1, but it was far more dominant than that scoreline suggests. For Seattle, the only positive spot was accuracy, going 1.19 in the series, with everyone else going massively negative. I mean, we're talking minus 25 and the like. So it was a bright spot that accuracy went positive, but on the other hand, everybody on the London Royal Ravens showed up and showed out. All players went positive, with Afro leading the charge with the 1.22 KD, with 82 kills and 67 deaths in the series.
With Seattle taking map 2, the search and destroy, winning 6 of the 7 rounds, I really thought they would pull out another map win, but even with the accuracy of accuracy, they they didn't take any more maps.
Most definitely. And then in the second game on Sunday, we saw another fan favorite of Optic versus the Boston Breach, which promised to be a tough series. The game started off hot, with Boston narrowly taking the hard point by 3 points on Gavatu. However, it quickly turned dire for Boston after that. Optic was able to take the next 3 maps straight, taking the series 3-1 in a very dominant way. Dashy was able to be the star of the series, going 1.35 in KD for a total of 77 kills and 57 deaths. Scump was the only one to go negative, but only by -5 on the series in the KD department. Meanwhile, for Boston, Nero was the only bright spot, going 88 and 77 series, but he was the only one to go positive. In the final match of the day, we saw the New York Subliners take on the top team in the league of Atlanta FaZe. New York hoped to start turning around their season's woes with a win, but it did not pan out that way. Atlanta came out hot, winning the Berlin Hardpoint 250 to 189 and the Search and Destroy on Tuscan 6-1. New York was able to come back in the Gavatu control, winning it 3-2 through controlling the kills. However, FaZe proved too powerful on the Tuscan hardpoint, where they took it and the series. All of New York struggled except for Clayster, who won 1.05. FaZe, on the other hand, could do no wrong, with everyone going positive except for Arcides.
And then after the match, we go to Twitter with Abizi tweeting GG's to NY. We won 3-1. Krim is my son at this point. Then Simp tweeting, "You are horrible" at Krim6, with then Krim replying saying, "Yes, make it personal, and I am aware." Then Simp replying, "GG's Fat 6. I'm sure the battles will come this year." Now, I know Krim is all about trolling via Twitter and whatnot, but like, dang, turning it into fat shaming him on Twitter though, like, seems a little bit excessive. If this is a joke, which I'm sure it is, all jokes, then I get it. You know, friends are different with their friends and, you know, jokes or whatever. But in my opinion, either way, they should keep stuff like that to themselves, as CDL is a pro league that is getting bigger and more attention with time. But I guess it also fits the toxic community of Call of Duty. So
who knows? But it is becoming a pro league. So hopefully they can turn it around. And with games being played and bracket seeding cemented, the bracket for Major 1 had some great matchups on the books for this next coming weekend. Keep an eye out on the bracket at this major, as it promises to offer up some twists and turns. In round 1, we have in the upper bracket, Atlanta FaZe taking on Boston Breach, Optic Texas taking on Seattle Surge, London Royal Ravens taking on the LA Gorillas, LA Thieves taking on Toronto. And then from the bottom side of the bracket, we have the Florida Mutineers, the Paris Legion, the Minnesota Rocker, and the New York Subliners, all waiting to see who they're going to match up against. So with this bracket, hopefully we'll see some great games, and it's sure going to be entertaining.